The ship was dying. Captain Park Yuna knew this the way a mother knows when her child is sick. She could feel it in the way the floors shook. She could hear it in the groaning of metal walls. The horizon's edge had been her home for 3 years, and now it was falling apart around her. She stood on the bridge and looked at the damage reports on her screen. Life support was working at 40%. The main engine was barely holding together. The shields were completely gone. Outside the windows, she could see the black emptiness of space, and somewhere in that darkness the enemy was waiting. The Velkari had attacked them 2 days ago. They came out of nowhere, their ships appearing like ghosts from the void. The horizon's edge was not a warship. It was a research vessel, built for science and exploration, not for battle. They had tried to run, but the Velkari were faster. They had tried to fight, but the Velkari were stronger. In the end, they had only survived because the Velkari thought they were already dead. But they were not dead. Not yet. Park Yuna turned to look at her crew. There were 47 humans on board, and every single one of them looked exhausted. They had not slept in 2 days. They had been working without rest, trying to keep the ship alive. Some of them had injuries. Some of them had lost friends in the attack. But none of them had given up. And then there were the Telvanni. The Telvanni were not human. They were tall creatures with hard shells on their bodies like insects from Earth but much bigger. They had 6 legs and 2 arms, and their faces had large eyes that seemed to see everything. There were 20 of them on the ship, scientists and researchers who had joined the human crew for a mission to study ancient ruins in the outer spiral. The Telvanni ambassador was named Crix. He was old, even by Telvanni standards, and his shell had turned from green to gray with age. He stood in the corner of the bridge, watching the humans work with an expression that Park Yuna could not read. "Captain," Crix said, his voice clicking and buzzing as his translator turned it into human words. "My people are worried. They want to know if help is coming." Park Yuna took a deep breath. "I don't know," she said honestly. "We're very far from home. The nearest station is 3 months away. Even if we sent a message right now, it would take days to reach anyone." "And the Velkari?" Crix asked. "They're out there," Park Yuna admitted. "Probably waiting to see if we try to move. If we power up our engines, they'll know we're alive. They'll come back to finish us." Crix made a sound that might have been a sigh. "Then we are trapped. We cannot stay, and we cannot leave." "We're not giving up," Park Yuna said firmly. "Not while I'm still captain of this ship." She walked across the bridge to the engineering station, where Chief Engineer Kim Do-yun was working. Do-yun was a thin man with messy hair and dark circles under his eyes. He had not slept in 3 days, and he was running on coffee and pure stubbornness. His fingers moved across the controls like they had minds of their own. "Do-yun," Park Yuna said quietly. "Can you get me a long-range communication burst?" Do-yun looked up at her with tired eyes. "A burst? Captain? That would use almost all our remaining power. If it doesn't work, we won't have enough energy to keep life support running." "I know," Park Yuna said. "But if we don't try, we're dead anyway. The Velkari won't wait forever. We need help." Do-yun was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I can do it. Give me 1 hour." Park Yuna put her hand on his shoulder. "Thank you." She walked to the communications station, where a young woman named Lee Sumin was working. Sumin was only 23 years old, and this was her first mission in deep space. She had joined the crew full of excitement and dreams of adventure. Now her face was pale, and her hands were shaking slightly. But she was still at her station, still doing her job. "Sumin," Park Yuna said gently, "I need you to prepare a message for Earth Command. Emergency priority. Tell them everything. Our location, our damage, the Velkari attack. Tell them we need repairs, medical supplies, and evacuation support if possible." Suman nodded, her fingers already moving across her keyboard. Yes, Captain. I'll have it ready. Park Yuna looked around the bridge one more time. Her crew was tired and scared, but they were still fighting. The Telvanni were watching them with something that might have been respect or might have been pity. Outside, the stars were cold and distant, and death was waiting in the darkness. But Park Yuna refused to give up. She had brought these people out here, humans and Telvanni alike. She would bring them home. 1 hour later, Kim Do-hyun gave her the signal. The communication array was ready. It would drain almost everything they had left, but it would send their message farther and faster than anything else on the ship. Send it, Park Yuna ordered. Lee Suman pressed the button. For a moment, the lights on the ship flickered and dimmed. Then the message was gone, flying through space toward Earth at the speed of light. Now they could only wait. The first day passed slowly. The crew worked to keep the ship running, fixing small problems and preventing big ones. The Telvanni helped where they could, using their technical knowledge to repair damaged systems. Crick spent most of his time watching the humans, saying little but seeing everything. The second day was harder. Supplies were running low. The air was getting stale. Some of the crew started to lose hope. The third day was worse, and the fourth, and the fifth. On the sixth day, Lee Suman suddenly sat up straight at her station. Her eyes went wide, and her mouth fell open. "Captain!" she shouted. "We have a response! Earth Command is responding!" Park Yuna rushed to the communications station. Her heart was beating fast. "What do they say?" Suman read the message out loud, her voice shaking with emotion. "Message received. Help is coming. Hold position. ETA, 14 days. The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at each other in confusion. 14 days. That was impossible. It should take 3 months at minimum to reach them from Earth. Even the fastest ships in the fleet could not travel that quickly. "That can't be right," Kim Do-hyun said. "No ship can get here that fast." But Park Yuna felt something strange in her chest. It was not quite hope. It was something bigger, something she had not felt in a long time. Earth had answered, and somehow, against all logic, help was coming. She looked at Crix, who was staring at the message with his large, unblinking eyes. "Ambassador," she said, "I don't know how, but my people are coming for us." Crix tilted his head. 14 days, he repeated slowly. "Your people will cross 3 months of space in 14 days? This is not possible." Park Yuna smiled for the first time since the attack. "You don't know humans very well yet," she said. "When someone we care about is in trouble, we find a way." The 14 days felt like 14 years. Every morning, Captain Park Yuna woke up wondering if this would be the day the Velkari came back. Every night she went to sleep wondering if she would wake up at all. The ship was holding together, but barely. Kim Do-hyun had performed miracles to keep life support running, but even miracles have limits. The crew was exhausted, the Telvanni were restless, and in the darkness of space, the enemy was still out there somewhere, watching and waiting. On the morning of the 14th day, Park Yuna was sitting in her captain's chair, drinking cold coffee and staring at the view screen. The stars looked the same as always, empty, silent, uncaring. Then Lee Suman gasped. "Captain," she whispered. "Something is happening. I'm picking up energy readings, big ones, really big." Park Yuna leaned forward. "Where?" "Everywhere," Suman said, her voice rising with excitement. "All around us, it's like space itself is tearing open." The view screen flickered. And then Park Yuna saw something she would never forget. Space was ripping apart. Great tears of light appeared in the darkness, blue and white and burning bright. Through those tears, ships were coming. Not one ship, not two, an entire fleet. Park Yuna counted them as they appeared. 1, 5, 10, 15. 17 ships of all sizes, from small destroyers to massive carriers. They spread out across space like a wall of metal and fire, their lights blazing against the eternal night. At the center of the fleet was the biggest ship Park Yuna had ever seen. It was longer than a city, wider than a mountain, and covered with weapons that could destroy a planet. On its side, she could read the name written in letters as tall as buildings, Indomitable. "That's impossible," Kim Do-yeon whispered. He had come to the bridge when the alarms started, and now he stood beside the captain's chair with his mouth hanging open. "That's Admiral Choi's flagship. That's the entire Fourth Fleet. They're supposed to be protecting the core worlds." "Well," Park Yuna said slowly, "they're here now." The communications system crackled to life. A voice filled the bridge, deep and calm and full of authority. "This is Admiral Choi Min-ho of the Earth Defense Fleet, calling the research vessel Horizon's Edge. We received your distress signal. We are here to help. Please respond." Park Yuna stood up. Her legs were shaking, but her voice was steady. "Admiral Choi, this is Captain Park Yuna. We didn't expect—" She stopped, not knowing what to say. The Admiral's voice was warm. "You didn't expect us to actually come?" "I didn't expect you to bring the whole fleet," Park Yuna admitted. There was a sound that might have been a laugh. "Captain, when someone calls for help, Earth doesn't send the minimum. We send everything. Now hold tight. We're coming to you." Within the hour, small ships began leaving the fleet and flying toward the Horizon's Edge. Shuttles and repair pods and medical transports, all heading straight for the damaged research vessel. Park Yuna watched them approach with something like wonder in her heart. The first shuttle landed in the cargo bay. When the doors opened, a young woman stepped out. She was wearing a military uniform and carrying a large metal case in her arms. Her name tag said, "Han Ji-woo, Lieutenant, Logistics Division." "Captain Park?" she asked with a bright smile. "I'm Lieutenant Han Ji-woo. I'm here to deliver your emergency supplies." Park Yuna looked at the case. "What's in there? Medical equipment? Repair tools?" Ji-woo opened the case. Inside were dozens of sealed packages, each one labeled with careful handwriting. "Coffee," Ji-woo said proudly. "Premium earth-grown coffee beans, direct from Colombia, Admiral's orders." Park Yuna stared at her. "Coffee? Earth Command considers it essential for crew morale," Ji-woo explained. "The repair teams and medical supplies are coming too, of course, but the Admiral said the coffee should arrive first." Despite everything, Park Yuna laughed. It was a real laugh, the first one in weeks. "Your Admiral is a strange man." "Yes, ma'am," Ji-woo agreed. "But he's never lost a battle." The repair teams arrived soon after, and they brought things that Park Yuna had never seen before. New hull plating made from materials that didn't exist 6 months ago. Power cells that could run for years without recharging. Medical equipment that could heal wounds in minutes instead of days. Weapons systems that turned the peaceful research vessel into something much more dangerous. The engineers worked fast. They crawled through every part of the ship, fixing things that had been broken and improving things that had been working. Within hours, the Horizon's Edge was stronger than it had ever been. Crix watched all of this with growing confusion. The old Telvanni ambassador moved through the ship, observing the human workers with his large eyes. Finally, he approached Park Yuna with a question that had been burning in his mind. "Captain," he said, "I do not understand. You asked for repairs. Simple repairs. Why did your people send so many ships? Why did they bring weapons and soldiers? This is not a rescue mission. This is something else." Park Yuna was quiet for a moment. She had been wondering the same thing. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I intend to find out." She took a shuttle to the Indomitable. The great ship swallowed her small vessel like a whale swallowing a fish. Inside, she found herself in a world of metal corridors and busy crew members, all moving with purpose and determination. Admiral Choi Min-ho was waiting for her in his ready room. He was an older man with gray hair and a face that had seen many battles. His eyes were sharp but not unkind. He looked like someone who had spent his whole life protecting people. "Captain Park," he said, gesturing to a chair. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." Park Yuna sat down. "Admiral, I'm grateful for everything you've done. But I need to know why you're really here. You didn't bring a battle fleet just to fix my ship." The Admiral nodded slowly. "You're right. We didn't." He pressed a button on his desk, and a star map appeared in the air between them. "What I'm about to tell you is classified. The Velkari attack on your ship was not random. It was a test." "A test?" Park Yuna repeated. "The Velkari are planning something big," the Admiral explained. "They've been watching humanity for years, trying to understand our weaknesses. Your ship, with its human crew and Telvanni allies, was perfect for them. They wanted to see how we would respond." Park Yuna felt cold. "And if we hadn't called for help?" "They would have destroyed you," the Admiral said simply. "And then they would have told the galaxy that humanity abandons its friends, that we're weak, that we're not worth trusting." Park Yuna understood now. "But instead we called for help, and you came." "With everything we had," the Admiral confirmed. "This isn't just a rescue mission, Captain. It's a message to the Velkari, to the whole galaxy. When you threaten our people, when you threaten our allies, this is what happens." He gestured at the window, where the fleet hung in the darkness like a constellation of war. "We show up, all of us, and we don't back down." Park Yuna felt something stirring in her chest. Pride, maybe, or hope. "The Velkari tracked our distress signal," she said slowly. "They know where we are." "We're counting on it," the Admiral said with a small smile. "They're coming, Captain, and when they arrive, we'll be waiting." Park Yuna looked at the star map. Somewhere out there, an enemy fleet was heading toward them. They expected to find a crippled research vessel and easy prey. Instead, they would find the full might of Earth. "What do you need from me?" she asked. "Your crew knows this space better than anyone," the Admiral said, "and you've already proven you don't give up easily. I want you with us when the fighting starts." Park Yuna thought of her tired crew. She thought of Do-hyun and Sumin and all the others who had fought so hard to survive. She thought of Crix and the Telvanni who had trusted humans with their lives. "We'll be there," she said. "Every single one of us." The Admiral smiled. "I knew you would say that." The briefing room on the Indomitable was cold and quiet. Park Yuna sat at a long table with Admiral Choi Minho and several other officers she did not recognize. The lights were dim and the mood was serious. A woman stood at the front of the room. She was tall and thin, with short black hair and eyes that seemed to look right through people. Her name was Shin Hae-jin, and she was an intelligence officer. When she spoke, everyone listened. 3 weeks ago, Hae-jin began, we intercepted a series of coded messages from Velkari space. It took our best people 12 days to break the code. What we found changed everything. She pressed a button and a holographic image appeared above the table. It showed a map of space, with blue dots representing human territory and red dots representing Velkari territory. Between them was a gray area, the outer spiral, where the horizon's edge had been attacked. "The Velkari have been watching humanity for a long time," Hae-jin continued. "They consider us a threat, but not because of our weapons or our ships. They fear something else. They fear our alliances." She pointed to a green dot on the map. "This is Telvanni space. The Telvanni are old and wise, but they are not warriors. They have knowledge and technology that the Velkari want. For centuries, the Telvanni survived by hiding and avoiding conflict. Then, 5 years ago, they made an alliance with humanity." Park Yuna nodded slowly. She remembered the early days of that alliance. The Telvanni had been cautious at first, unsure if humans could be trusted. But over time, they had grown closer. Human ships protected Telvanni worlds. Telvanni scientists worked with human researchers. Together, they had accomplished things that neither could have done alone. The Velkari see this alliance as dangerous, Hagen said. If humanity and the Telvanni become too strong together, the Velkari will lose their chance to expand. So they made a plan. The holographic map changed. Now it showed the horizon's edge, a small blue dot in the middle of the gray outer spiral. Around it, red arrows were pointing inward from all directions. Your ship was not attacked by accident, Hagen said, looking directly at Park Yuna. It was chosen. A human crew working with Telvanni scientists far from help in neutral territory. The perfect target. Park Yuna felt her hands tighten into fists. They wanted to destroy us. They wanted to send a message, Hagen corrected. If they destroyed your ship and killed everyone on board, it would prove that humanity cannot protect its allies. Other species would think twice before working with us. The Telvanni might end the alliance out of fear. Earth would look weak. Admiral Choi leaned forward. But you survived. You sent a distress signal. And Earth answered. The Velkari didn't expect that, Hagen said. Their spies told them it would take months for Earth to respond. By then, your ship would be gone, and the message would be sent. But they didn't know about our new hyperspace technology. They didn't know we could reach you in 14 days. Park Yuna thought about this. So now the Velkari know we're stronger than they thought. Not just stronger, Hagen said. Different. The Velkari don't understand loyalty the way humans do. In their society, the weak are abandoned. The strong survive alone. The idea that Earth would send an entire fleet to save one small ship, that we would risk so much for so few, it doesn't make sense to them. Another officer spoke up. He was a broad-shouldered man with a scarred face and calm eyes. His name tag said, Ryu Taisun, Captain Silent Thunder. The Velkari tracked your distress signal, Taisun said. They know exactly where you are. Our intelligence says they're gathering a fleet right now. They'll be here within 3 days. Park Yuna felt her heart beat faster. How many ships? At least 40, Hagen answered. Maybe more. 40 ships against 17. The numbers were not good. Can we run? Park Yuna asked. Take the horizon's edge and leave before they arrive? Admiral Choi shook his head slowly. We could. But if we run, the Velkari win. They'll tell the galaxy that humans are cowards, that we abandoned our mission the moment things got difficult. Every alliance we have will become weaker. So we stay and fight, Park Yuna said. It was not a question. We stay and fight, the Admiral confirmed. But not just to survive, to win, to show the Velkari and everyone else what happens when you attack Earth's people. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars were cold and distant, but the ships of the fleet were warm with light and life. I'm not going to lie to you, Captain Park, he said quietly. This will be dangerous. We're outnumbered. Some of us might not survive. But I believe in this crew. I believe in the people on your ship. And I believe that together, we can do something that the Velkari think is impossible. Park Yuna stood up and walked to stand beside him. My crew has been through a lot. They're tired and scared. But they're also the bravest people I've ever known. They won't run. I know, the Admiral said. That's why I'm asking you to lead them in the battle. Not behind the fleet, but with us, side by side. Park Yuna thought about Kim Do-hyun, who had kept the ship running through sheer willpower. She thought about Lee Soo-min, who had sent that desperate message into the void. She thought about all the crew members who had refused to give up, even when everything seemed lost. We'll do it, she said. But I have one condition. The Admiral raised an eyebrow. Name it. The Telvanni on my ship, Park Yuna said. They're not soldiers. They're scientists. If they want to leave before the battle, they should have that choice. Of course, the Admiral agreed. We'll provide transport for anyone who wants to evacuate. Park Yuna nodded. Then I should go talk to them. She returned to the horizon's edge and found Crix waiting for her in the cargo bay. The old ambassador was standing perfectly still, his large eyes reflecting the lights of the repair crews still working on the ship. You spoke with the Admiral? Crix said. It was not a question. I did, Park Yuna confirmed. She told him everything she had learned. The Velkari plan, the coming battle, the choice that the Telvanni now faced. When she finished, Crix was silent for a long time. His mandibles clicked softly as he thought. You are giving us the chance to leave, he finally said. To run away while you stay and fight. I'm giving you a choice, Park Yuna said. This isn't your battle. The Velkari attacked us because of humanity's alliance with your people. You shouldn't have to die for a war that isn't yours. Crix made a sound that might have been laughter. Captain Park, do you know how old I am? No, she admitted. I have lived for 300 of your years, Crix said. I have seen many species rise and fall. I have watched empires crumble and alliances break. In all that time, do you know what I have never seen? Park Yuna shook her head. I have never seen a species like yours, Crix said. His voice was full of wonder. You came to us with open hands. You protected our worlds when we could not protect ourselves. You shared your technology and your knowledge, asking for nothing in return but friendship. He stepped closer to her. And now, when danger comes, you offer to fight alone so that we can run away safely. This is not how the galaxy works, Captain. This is not how any species I have ever known behaves. It's how humans behave, Park Yuna said simply. Yes, Crix agreed, it is. And that is why my people will stay. Not because we are brave, not because we are warriors, but because you have shown us what it means to be true allies. If you fight, we fight with you. Park Yuna felt tears in her eyes. She blinked them away. Thank you, she said softly. Crix bowed his head. No, Captain, thank you, for reminding an old creature that there is still good in the universe. Outside the window, the stars were waiting. The enemy was coming, but for the first time since the nightmare began, Park Yuna felt ready. The Velkari came on the third day, just as the intelligence officers had predicted. Park Yuna was on the bridge of the horizon's edge when the alarm started. Lee Sumin's voice cut through the noise, sharp and clear. Contact! Multiple contacts! They're coming out of hyperspace! The view screen flickered, and Park Yuna saw them. Red tears in the fabric of space, opening like wounds in the darkness. Through those tears, ships poured out, one after another, filling the void with metal and fire. She counted them as they appeared. 10, 20, 30, 40. The Velkari fleet spread out across space like a swarm of angry insects, their weapons already glowing with deadly light. 43 ships, Kim Do-yun reported from his station. His voice was calm, but Park Yuna could see his hands shaking. Captain, they outnumber us almost 3-1. Park Yuna nodded slowly. She had known this was coming. They all had. But knowing and seeing were different things. Admiral Choi's voice came through the communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Choi. Hold your positions. Wait for my signal. The human fleet was arranged in a defensive formation, with the Indomitable at the center and smaller ships spread out on both sides. The horizon's edge was positioned near the flagship, its new weapon systems online and ready. It was still a research vessel, but now it had teeth. The Velkari fleet stopped just outside weapons range. For a long moment, nothing happened. The two fleets faced each other across the void, separated by thousands of kilometers of empty space. Then a message came through. The Velkari commander appeared on the view screen. He was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 eyes that burned with cold fire. His voice was deep and harsh, like stones grinding together. "Humans," he said. "We expected to find a broken ship and dying crew. Instead, we find your war fleet. Impressive, but foolish." Admiral Choi responded calmly. "We received a distress call. We answered it. That's what humans do." The Velkari commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "You came to save one small ship. How touching, how weak. In the Velkari Empire, we do not waste resources on the dying. We let them fall so that the strong may rise." "Then you don't understand us at all," the admiral said. "We don't leave anyone behind. We don't abandon our people, and we don't abandon our friends." He paused. "Turn back now, and you can leave in peace. Stay, and you will face the full strength of Earth." The Velkari commander's eyes narrowed. "You are outnumbered, human. You cannot win." Admiral Choi smiled. "We'll see." The communication ended. For a moment, silence fell across both fleets. Then the Velkari opened fire. Space exploded with light. Energy beams and missiles flew across the void, turning the darkness into a storm of fire. The human fleet responded instantly, their ships moving with perfect coordination. "Evasive maneuvers!" Park Yuna shouted. The horizon's edge rolled hard to the left, dodging a beam that would have cut it in half. Kim Do-yeon's fingers flew across his controls, pushing the engines harder than they had ever been pushed before. The battle became chaos. Ships twisted and turned through space, firing at each other in a deadly dance. Explosions bloomed like flowers made of flame. The void was filled with the screams of dying metal. But the human fleet was not breaking. Despite being outnumbered, they fought with a unity that the Velkari could not match. When one ship was in danger, others moved to protect it. When an enemy showed weakness, they attacked together. Captain Ryu Taeson's ship, the Silent Thunder, led a group of destroyers in a flanking maneuver that caught the Velkari by surprise. They hit the enemy formation from the side, destroying 3 ships before the Velkari could respond. The Indomitable stood at the center of the formation like a mountain of steel. Enemy weapons hit it again and again, but its shields held. Admiral Choi commanded the battle with calm precision, sending orders that moved the fleet like a single living creature. On the horizon's edge, Park Yuna fought her own battle. The research vessel's new weapons were not as powerful as those on the warships, but they were accurate. Lee Suman tracked enemy targets with steady hands, calling out positions while Park Yuna directed fire. "2 fighters on our left!" Suman shouted. "I see them," Park Yuna replied. "Do-hyun, give me power to the port guns." "Done!" Do-hyun yelled back. The horizon's edge fired. One Velkari fighter exploded. The other turned and ran. Below decks, the Telvanni were working too. They had volunteered for damage control, using their technical knowledge to fix systems that were damaged in the fighting. Crix himself was in the engine room, helping Do-hyun's team keep the ship running. The battle lasted for hours. It felt like days. Park Yuna lost track of time as she fought, her world shrinking to the view screen in front of her and the controls under her hands. Ships died around her. She saw a human destroyer take a direct hit and break apart in a ball of fire. She saw the escape pods launch, tiny lights against the darkness. She didn't know if anyone survived, but she also saw Velkari ships die, 1 by 1, then 2 by 2, then in groups. The human fleet was winning. The turning point came when the Indomitable finally unleashed its main weapons. The flagship had been holding back, saving its strength for the right moment. When that moment came, it was terrible to see. Beams of pure energy shot across space, each one as bright as a sun. They hit the center of the Velkari formation, cutting through 3 warships like a knife through paper. The explosions were so bright that Park Yuna had to look away. When she looked back, the Velkari fleet was breaking. Ships were turning, running, fleeing back toward the hyperspace points they had come from. The formation that had seemed so powerful was falling apart. "They're retreating!" Lee Sumin shouted, her voice full of joy and disbelief. "Captain, they're retreating!" Park Yuna watched the enemy flee. She should have felt happy, but she was too tired for happiness. She was too tired for anything except relief. Admiral Choi's voice came through the communication system one more time. "All ships, hold your fire! Let them go! We've made our point!" The human fleet stopped shooting. The Velkari ships continued to flee, disappearing into hyperspace one by one until the void was empty again. The silence that followed was the most beautiful sound Park Yuna had ever heard. "Damage report," she said quietly. Kim Do-yeon checked his screens. "Hull damage in 3 sections. Shields at 20%. Engines somehow still working. We made it, Captain." Park Yuna looked around her bridge. Her crew was still there, tired and scared but alive. They had done the impossible. She opened a channel to the flagship. "Admiral Choi, this is Captain Park. The Horizon's Edge is still flying." The Admiral's response was warm. "Well done, Captain. Well done, all of you." Outside the window, the stars were quiet again. The fires were dying. The battle was over. But in the distance, Park Yuna could see the wreckage of ships that had not survived. Human ships. Good people who had come to save strangers and paid the ultimate price. "The brave dawn," she said softly. "Did anyone—" "Escape pods were recovered," Do-hyun answered. "Most of the crew made it." Most, not all. Park Yuna closed her eyes. They had won. But victory always had a cost. "Get some rest, everyone," she said. "We've earned it." But she stayed on the bridge, watching the stars, thinking about the people who would never see them again, and she made a silent promise to them. "Your sacrifice meant something. We won't forget." 3 days after the battle, the outer spiral was quiet. The Velkari had retreated to their own territory, their dreams of expansion shattered. Their fleet was broken, their pride was wounded. And across the galaxy, word was spreading about what had happened. The humans had come. They had fought. They had won. On board the Horizon's Edge, life was slowly returning to normal. The repair crews from the fleet had fixed the remaining damage, and the ship was stronger than it had ever been. Kim Do-hyun finally slept, a full 12 hours of peaceful rest. Lee Sumin smiled again, her young face bright with relief. But for Captain Park Yuna, there was one more thing to do. Crix had requested a formal audience with Admiral Choi Min-ho. The old Telvanni ambassador wanted to speak with the humans who had saved his people. He wanted to understand. They met on the Indomitable, in a large room with windows that looked out at the stars. Admiral Choi was there, along with Captain Ryu Tyson and Intelligence Officer Shin Haejin. Park Yuna stood beside them, representing the crew of the Horizon's Edge. Crix entered slowly. His ancient body moved with careful dignity, his shell reflecting the lights of the room. Behind him came the other Telvanni scientists, their large eyes watching everything with quiet wonder. The Admiral stood to greet them. "Ambassador Crix, it's an honor to meet you properly." Crix bowed his head in the Telvanni way. "Admiral Choi, the honor is mine." He paused, his mandibles clicking softly as he gathered his thoughts. "I have lived for many centuries. I have seen many things. But I have never seen anything like what your people did here." He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "When we first made contact with humanity, my people were afraid. You are so young by our standards, so quick to act, so full of fire. We thought you would burn out, like so many young species before you." He turned back to face the humans. "We were wrong." The room was silent. Crix continued. "When the Velkari attacked, we expected nothing. That is the way of the galaxy. The weak are abandoned. The strong survive alone. Your ship was damaged. Your crew was dying. Help was far away. By every law of the universe, you should have been lost. His voice grew softer. But then you called for help, and your people answered, not with a single ship, not with the minimum required, with an entire fleet, with soldiers and doctors and engineers, with weapons and medicine and... He made a sound that might have been a chuckle. And with coffee. Admiral Choi smiled slightly. Coffee is essential for morale. So I have been told, Crick said, but that is not what amazes me. What amazes me is why you came. He stepped closer to the Admiral. I asked Captain Park this question before the battle. I ask you now. Why did you send so many ships? Why did you risk so much for one small vessel? The Horizon's Edge is not a warship. Its crew is not important to your government. The Telvanni on board are not your people. Why did you come? Admiral Choi thought for a moment before answering. Because that's what we do. Crix tilted his head. That is not an answer. It's the only answer I have, the Admiral said. When someone we care about is in trouble, we help. We don't calculate the cost. We don't weigh the benefits. We just go. It's not strategy. It's not politics. It's who we are. He gestured at the other humans in the room. Every person on this fleet volunteered to come here. They knew the danger. They knew they might not survive. But when they heard that our people were in trouble, they didn't hesitate. Not because they were ordered to, because they couldn't stay behind knowing someone needed help. Park Yuna stepped forward. Ambassador, when I sent that distress signal, I didn't expect anyone to come. I thought we were too far away, too unimportant. But I sent it anyway, because that's what humans do. We hope. We reach out. We believe that someone will answer. She looked at Admiral Choi, then back at Crix. And someone did. Not because it was easy or safe or logical. Because we're family, all of us. The crew of the Horizon's Edge, the Telvanni researchers, the soldiers on this fleet. We're connected. And when one part of a family is hurting, the rest comes running. Crix was silent for a long time. His ancient eyes were wet, though Park Yuna didn't know if Telvanni could cry. Finally, he spoke. In all my years, I have never heard anyone speak this way. You call us family, though we are not of your blood. You call us friends, though we have known each other only a short time. You risk everything for people you have never met. He made a gesture with his arms, a motion that his translator could not explain. Park Yuna would later learn that it was a sacred bond in Telvanni culture, a promise that transcended politics and treaties. Then we will trust you, Crix said, again and again, until the stars themselves grow cold. The Telvanni and humanity are bound together now, not by convenience, not by necessity, by choice, by family. The Admiral extended his hand. After a moment, Crix reached out one of his own limbs and touched it. The gesture was awkward between two such different species, but the meaning was clear. They were allies. They were friends. They were family. The meeting ended, but the moment stayed with everyone who was there. Word spread through the fleet and then through the galaxy. Humanity had proven something that no one expected. They had shown that power was not just about weapons and ships. It was about loyalty, about love, about the refusal to leave anyone behind. The next morning, the fleet began preparing to leave. Ships would return to their stations. Crews would go home to their families. The Horizon's Edge would continue its mission, carrying human and Telvanni scientists toward new discoveries. But before the fleet departed, there was one last visitor to the research vessel. Lieutenant Han Jiwoo arrived in a small shuttle, carrying a large metal box. She was smiling, as always, her eyes bright with warmth. Captain Park, she said, I have one final delivery for you. Park Yuna looked at the box suspiciously. More coffee? Not exactly, Jiwoo said. She opened the box and pulled out a machine. It was shiny and new, with buttons and screens and a small nozzle at the front. "This is an industrial-grade coffee maker, top of the line. Earth Command has declared it essential equipment for all Allied vessels." Park Yuna laughed. She couldn't help it. After everything they had been through, after all the fear and pain and battle, here was this young lieutenant delivering a coffee maker like it was the most important thing in the universe. "Tell the Admiral thank you," she said, "and tell him he's still a strange man." "I will, ma'am," Jiwoo said with a grin. She left, and Park Yuna carried the coffee maker to the ship's dining area. Kim Do-yeon was already there, sitting at a table with dark circles still visible under his eyes. "What's that?" he asked. "Our new most important piece of equipment," Park Yuna said. She set the machine on the counter and started reading the instructions. Do-yeon watched her for a moment, then started laughing too. The sound filled the room, warm and real and alive. Outside the windows, the stars were waiting. The fleet was departing, ships moving toward their new destinations, one by one. The Indomitable was the last to go, its massive form catching the light of distant suns. Admiral Choi's voice came through the communication system one final time. "Captain Park, it's been an honor serving with you. Take care of your crew." "You too, Admiral," Park Yuna replied. "Thank you for everything." "No thanks necessary," the Admiral said. "You're family now, and family helps family." The Indomitable slipped into hyperspace and was gone. Park Yuna stood at the window, watching the stars. Beside her, the coffee maker hummed as Do-yeon figured out how to use it. Somewhere on the ship, she could hear Lee Soo-min laughing at something Crix had said. They were alive. They were together, and they were heading toward the future. The galaxy was a big place, full of dangers and wonders and mysteries. But Park Yuna knew one thing for certain now. No matter what challenges lay ahead, no matter what enemies they faced, they would never be alone. Earth was with them. Humanity was with them. And humanity never abandoned its own. The first cup of coffee was ready. Park Yuna took it and breathed in the warm, rich smell. Behind her, her crew was gathering, humans and Telvanni together, drawn by the familiar scent. She raised her cup in a silent toast to the stars. To the ones who came when we called, to the ones who gave everything, to the family we chose. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the stars seemed to shine just a little bit brighter.